History is full of kings, wars, and revolutions, but it's also packed with stories so bizarre you'll wish you could unknow them, from explosive whales to courtroom pigs. Today, we're diving headfirst into the weirdest corners of the past, the kind of facts that make you laugh, cringe, and question everything you learned in school. Let's get right into it. Number 15, the guillotine had a VIP box. You know how modern concerts have luxury seating? Well, so did public executions in 18th century France. During the Reign of Terror, the guillotine wasn't just a death machine, it was a spectacle. Executions became the ultimate daytime drama. Thousands gathered to watch like it was reality TV before cameras were invented. And for the upper crust, there were box seats. Fancy people brought their opera glasses and picnic baskets. Some even knit while the heads rolled. One knitting club, nicknamed the Tricotiuses, became regulars. Imagine watching TikToks on the Titanic. That level of disturbing chill. Executions became so popular that vendors sold snacks. People took dates. And yes, some attendees got too into it. There were reports of actual fans following certain executioners like groupies. So next time you feel weird about binge-watching crime documentaries, just know, your ancestors had a worse hobby. Number 14, there was a war over a bucket. No, not oil, gold, or land, a bucket. That's what sparked a war in 14th century Italy. In 1325, two rival city-states, Modena and Bologna, were already on shaky terms. Then Modena raided Bologna and stole a wooden bucket. Bologna was so offended, they declared war, a real war, with actual knights and sieges and everything. Over a bucket. The War of the Bucket lasted about a year, killed hundreds of people, and ended with Modena winning. They kept the bucket as a trophy, and it's still proudly displayed in a museum today like it's the Stanley Cup of petty grudges. So next time your roommate steals your mug and you think you're overreacting, remember, history says you're justified. Number 13, the CIA once tried to spy on cats. Here's a sentence you never expected to hear in the 1960s. The CIA spent millions of dollars trying to turn cats into spies. Actual cats, fluffy, meowing, naps 18 hours a day cats. This fever dream of espionage was called Acoustic Kitty. The plan, surgically implant a microphone, transmitter, and antenna into a living cat so it could sneak up on Soviet diplomats and record their conversations. Because cats are so famously obedient and discreet. So they picked a test subject, wired it up like a feline James Bond, and sent it on a mission to eavesdrop outside a foreign embassy. First outing. All systems go. The cat took 2 steps and was immediately hit by a taxi. Mission terminated. No joke. Millions of taxpayer dollars turned into roadkill in under 30 seconds. The CIA eventually shelved the project, probably after realizing you can't train an animal that ignores your existence 90% of the time unless you're holding a can opener. So if you've ever suspected your cat is judging you from the windowsill, it's not impossible they were government issued. Number 12, medieval animal trials were a thing. In medieval Europe, your pig could get arrested, not metaphorically, literally. Back then, animals could be put on trial for crimes like murder, theft, or even witchcraft. Pigs, cows, dogs, rats, you name it. If a pig trampled a child, straight to court, judges, lawyers, witnesses, the whole 9 yards, they would assign public defenders to barnyard defendants. Courtroom sketches would be amazing, by the way. There's a record of a pig in 1386, France being dressed in human clothes and publicly hanged for child murder. I'm not even making this up. Sometimes they were exiled, sometimes tortured, sometimes excommunicated from the church. Why? Because people believed animals could be morally responsible. Also because medieval Europe was, frankly, making it up as it went along. So next time your dog chews your shoes, be thankful modern justice doesn't involve slapping him with a subpoena. Number 11, the Eiffel Tower was once a giant billboard. Paris, the city of love, light, and ads for car tires. From 1925 to 1934, the Eiffel Tower, the iconic romantic backdrop of countless movies and proposals, was basically one giant glowing billboard for Citroën, the car company. The entire side of the tower was lit up with the brand's name in neon lights so bright, Charles Lindbergh used it as a navigational beacon when flying over the city. Romantic. Right. This wasn't just a little logo tucked in a corner. It was the biggest ad in the world at the time, glowing across Paris like Times Square met an iron lattice. It blinked, it sparkled, it screamed, "Buy a car," louder than a used car salesman on Black Friday. Eventually, the lease ended and the lights came down. But for nearly a decade, the Eiffel Tower was less architectural wonder and more giant influencer for French auto sales. Because nothing whispers timeless beauty like sponsored content. Number 10. Victorians took pictures with dead people. Imagine scrolling through your family photo album and stumbling on a picture of Great Aunt Mildred sitting in a chair, fully dressed, eyes wide open and very, very dead. Welcome to the charming Victorian trend of post-mortem photography. In the 19th century, photography was new, expensive, and rare. So if a loved one passed away before getting a good portrait, well, no problem. Just prop them up, pose them, and click away. Seriously. Photographers would sometimes paint open eyes on the eyelids or use wires to stand the body upright. Some families even posed the deceased with their living children because nothing says cherished memory like sitting on your dead uncle's lap. Others were laid peacefully in bed or cradled lovingly if you didn't know the person was dead. You might not even notice until you do. It was meant to be respectful, a keepsake, a final memory. But through modern eyes, it's horror movie level unsettling. You could be staring at an old-timey wedding photo and not realize the bride is already 6 feet under. So the next time your mom insists on just one more family pic, remember at least everyone's still breathing. Number 9, mummies were turned into paint. The Renaissance art, culture, and you're grinding up ancient dead people to smear on canvases. Yeah, no one talks about this in art class, but from the 16th to 19th centuries, there was literally a pigment called mummy brown, and it was exactly what it sounds like, paint made by crushing Egyptian mummies into powder, because apparently someone saw a 3,000-year-old corpse and thought this would really pop on an oil painting. Why? Well, the resin and embalming materials gave the pigment a nice brownish tone. Artists used it for shadows, fabrics, whatever. People loved it until they realized, oh right, this is a human being. Eventually, the supply of mummies ran low because obviously and public opinion shifted from cool pigment to maybe let the dead stay dead, but not before a few hundred ancestors got immortalized again as part of a still life. So yeah, the next time you visit a museum and admire some 18th century portrait with rich brown hues, you might be looking at great-great-grandpa Tut painted into the background. Number 8, bloodletting was a cure-all. Got a headache? Let's drain a pint of blood. Feeling sad? Let's drain 2. For centuries, the go-to solution for nearly any illness was to slice you open and let the red stuff flow. Bloodletting was basically medieval medicine's version of have you tried turning it off and on again? Doctors believed the human body was ruled by 4 humors, and if one got out of whack, boom, time to bleed. And it wasn't just quack barbers in the back alley doing this. Real physicians swore by it. George Washington, for example, had a sore throat and was treated with bloodletting. By the time they were done, they had drained 5 pints and shocker, he died. Because draining a third of your body's blood isn't super great for staying alive. And if slicing you open wasn't dramatic enough, they sometimes used leeches. Yes, tiny vampire worms were medically approved, and in some parts of the world, they still are. Basically, if you ever feel like modern healthcare is confusing, just be glad no one's slapping a leech on your forehead to fix your seasonal allergies. Number 7, ancient Romans used pee as mouthwash. You know that minty fresh feeling after brushing your teeth. Now imagine swapping that toothpaste with human urine. Congratulations, you're brushing like a Roman. Back in ancient Rome, urine wasn't just something you flushed and forgot it was liquid gold. People collected it in jars on the street. Not for weird dares or revenge plots, but for cleaning. Urine contains ammonia, which is actually a decent cleaning agent, so the Romans, being the overachieving hygiene weirdos they were, used it to bleach their clothes and whiten their teeth. Yes, they gargled with pee. Some even believed it strengthened gums and fought infection. And just to make this more uncomfy, the best pee for the job was supposedly Portuguese. There was a literal market for imported urine, like fine wine, but way worse. So next time you complain about your dentist telling you to floss more, remember at least they're not prescribing a shot of someone else's bathroom juice. Number 6, President Taft got stuck in a bathtub. Imagine being the President of the United States and your legacy includes this. William Howard Taft, our 27th president, was a big guy, like really big, about 340 pounds. And one day, while attempting a perfectly innocent bath, he got stuck. Not just oops, tight fit stuck. We're talking full on wedged in like a human cork stuck. They had to call in multiple men to pry him loose. The tub groaned, the floor probably wept. After that, they custom built a giant bathtub that could fit 4 grown men just so the president could bathe in peace. So if you're ever embarrassed by a tight airplane seat, just remember, at least your hygiene routine never required a full-scale extraction team. Number 5, the Great Emu War. You've heard of world wars, but have you heard of Australia's most humiliating military campaign against birds? In 1932, Australia declared war on emus. Yes, the big feathery things that look like off-brand ostriches. There were 20,000 of them trampling crops in Western Australia, so the government sent actual soldiers with machine guns to take them down. The result, absolute disaster. The emus outran the bullets, they dodged like feathery ninjas, they split into tactical formations, confusing the troops, the machine guns jammed, soldiers missed, emus laughed, okay, maybe not laughed, but they definitely won. The army burned through thousands of rounds and only managed to kill a few hundred. The rest kept strutting like they owned the place. Eventually, the military gave up. The emus won the war. Officially, it's on record. Australia versus birds 0-1. It's probably the only war in history where the losing side had feathers and no thumbs. Number 4, the dancing plague of 1518. Your feet start tapping, then your arms join in. Next thing you know, you're breakdancing in 16th century France with no music, no break, and no idea why. Congratulations, you're in the middle of a dancing plague. In July 1518, a woman named Frau Trophea stepped into the streets of Strasbourg and just started dancing. No festival, no band, just her, vibing like she was possessed by the spirit of EDM centuries too early. Within days, dozens more joined her, then hundreds, and they couldn't stop. Literally, people danced until their feet bled, until they collapsed. Some danced to death. Yes, death by dancing. No, this isn't a Footloose reboot gone dark. Local leaders figured they'd fix it by building a stage and hiring musicians, because when people are dancing themselves into the afterlife, the obvious solution is more cowbell. Historians still argue what caused it. Mass hysteria, ergot poisoning secret cult of cardio fanatics, we don't know. But what we do know is that a whole city basically flash mobbed itself into the ER. So next time you hear your favorite song and start busting a move, be grateful your playlist doesn't come with a death toll. Number 3, Napoleon was attacked by bunnies. You expect military legends to die on the battlefield, not get humiliated by a horde of fluffy assassins. But Napoleon Bonaparte, yes, that Napoleon once planned a rabbit hunt to celebrate a military victory. The plan was simple: release hundreds of rabbits, then shoot them. Easy target practice, symbolic dominance. What could go wrong? Everything went wrong. Turns out, his staff bought domesticated rabbits instead of wild ones, so when they were released, instead of running away, the bunnies ran toward the soldiers like a charging wave of adorable doom. Hundreds of rabbits swarmed Napoleon and his men, hopping up his legs, gnawing on uniforms, and flopping around in aggressive cuteness. Napoleon tried to shoo them away with a riding crop. Didn't work. He fled. The man who nearly conquered Europe was overrun by the Easter Bunny's revenge squad. There's no known record of injuries except to Napoleon's pride. Number 2, exploding whale of Oregon. You know that moment when you're so confident in your bad idea, it loops all the way back to genius and then explodes. That's what happened in 1970 when Oregon officials had a big problem: a dead, rotting 8-ton whale stranded on the beach. What do you do with a whale carcass the size of a minivan? Bury it. Nah. Burn it too wet. No. The natural solution was explosives. They packed it with half a ton of dynamite and invited the public to watch because apparently they thought it would be majestic. Spoiler alert, it was not. When the whale blew, chunks of blubber rocketed hundreds of feet in every direction like meat shrapnel. One piece crushed a parked car. Spectators screamed. A rain of whale fat coated everything in a glorious seafood apocalypse. To this day, no one knows what made them think this will work. But the event has gone down as the most majestic fail in American engineering since the Ford Pinto. Moral of the story, just because you can blow up a whale doesn't mean you should. Number 1. Pope tried to put a corpse on trial. Imagine being so petty, so cosmically done with someone, that you dig up their rotting corpse just to yell at it in court. Welcome to the year 897, when Pope Stephen VI decided that death wasn't enough for his rival, Pope Formosus. So what did he do? He dug up Formosus's decomposing body, propped it up on a throne in full papal gear, and conducted the infamous Cadaver Synod. Yes, they literally dressed the skeleton like a priest and screamed accusations at it in Latin. And because the corpse was a bit quiet on the stand, being dead and all, a deacon stood behind the throne and spoke for him like a ventriloquist. But if the dummy had worms, Formosus was found guilty, of course, and they stripped his body of papal robes, cut off his blessing fingers, classic overkill, and tossed him in the river like yesterday's garbage. This entire trial was less justice and more spite on steroids. Historians have debated the reasons, but mostly it boils down to one guy really holding a grudge past the grave. So yeah, the medieval Catholic Church wasn't just into incense and singing. Sometimes it got Weekend at Bernie's levels of insane. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.